Trevor, this is your restaurant. I know you need staff. I've been watching you, work the phones, trying to get them even this morning.
We've posted 2 jobs in the last 4 weeks for 3 locations, one of which is here. We had 150, 160 applicants. For cooks, the first week, we confirmed 18 interviews. 1 showed up.
Oof.
We hired that one person.
Of course.
She quit after two shifts. And we don't know where she went.
So it's the where did they go question.
Yeah, where did they go and are they coming back?
Right. So that is the thing that we're trying to tackle because, as we all know, the statistics are pretty eye-popping. We're in a period of sort of record vacancies for jobs. Rose, you run a construction company.
We can't find workers, obviously can't find employees. We had an ad out for admin assistant and bookkeeping, and 3-4 interviews, didn't show up. I hired 2-3 people, didn't show up. No text, no phone call. But what happens with our long-term employees, they end up working overtime, or they get more put on their plate, and they get stressed out.
So then you're caught in this web where, like, the reward for loyalty for your employees, the ones who are loyal, is that they get worked harder and harder and harder.
Right.
So I see Lindsay here nodding like this. You were a nurse at Sick Kids. Does that ring true to you?
That burnout from being asked to work extra hours and extra days and more, and the guilt that comes with it, and having my vacations denied. My loyalty was to there. I had spent most of my career working there, and the reward was work harder with less, work harder with less.
So you left?
I left. I actually just didn't work for a few months because I literally couldn't. I got to a point where I didn't have one more shift in me. I have, at this point, no intention of going back to the bedside.
We now have a culture where we can work from home more. That's hurt the mindset of going into work, especially if you come from an industry where it's physically arduous. I think the money is not the issue anymore.
So everybody in a way is talking about you, right? So Jay, you left, right? You were a really good employee with a tech company, and you said, I'm done.
We were always obviously understaffed like everybody else was. We were always overworked, right? But the game changer part was where, like, COVID hit. The way we used to work changed a lot. And I was eventually at a point, you know what? I don't have to do this.
So what are you doing now?
So I actually, part-time, just because when I was in between jobs looking for something, I was driving for Uber. And then I did get a job with a company as an insurance advisor. I don't even have to leave my house for it. It's a better job with a better salary, more job security.
You don't want to hear what he just said there. Like that's got to hurt, because you consider the food industry, right?
I definitely did. But then again, don't get me wrong, but would you want to do it where you'd have to go out there, stand on your feet all day long, as you mentioned before, and probably understaffed like every other place?
My answer to that is that there are good operators out there who are willing to listen to employees if they're ready to have the discussion. We can't even get to the table to talk to people.
Yeah. This is why Armin is here, because Armin, as an economist, as someone who studies like the future of workers, these 4 anecdotal experiences, I'm guessing they all ring true to you.
100%. So the labor market is actually growing, more people are working and doing more things. But the other thing that has happened is almost 600,000 people have crossed that line from under the age of 65 to over the age of 65, and there's fewer people, about 13,000 fewer people in the ages 15 to 24. So we've got more exits from the labor market than coming into the labor market.
The challenge for us is we don't see a pipeline, right? And we think that, so I think as of this summer, we have over 160,000 vacancies in food service across the country, which represents over 13% of our workforce.
And not only is there no pipeline, but the whole world is going through this. We are in an international foot race to find enough workers.
So you talk about this international foot race. Can you just break down for us what's happening in the global north and the global south, just to make that very clear?
Okay, well, let's look at this map. I mean, if you were to draw an imaginary line across the middle where the equator is, you would see that the colors in the north part are darker than in the south. Fast forward 20 years, 30 years, we've got one of the highest shares on the surface of the planet of the population who is 65 years of age and older.
If it was just aging, if it was just that train coming at us, why does it feel so incredibly urgent right now?
It's because we're in the middle of a perfect storm. So yeah, slowest train in the world coming at you, don't prepare for it. On top of that, introduce a pandemic that nobody saw coming, that is upending our demand for healthcare, as well as people getting sick and leaving the labor force. And the third factor is there's just so much pent-up demand for housing, for construction, for finally going out and eating out, right? Like, people have got money burning holes in their pockets and they want to go out and play, and they need places to live, and there's just not enough workers or supplies to actually make that happen in a timely way.
When I was burned out and I was trying to find a way to keep going because I didn't want to be where I was, right? I went to my employer and asked for time off. But we are so short-staffed, they could not accommodate it. I drove home that night and put in my resignation.
The problem is they're asking me to do 7 more jobs just to make that same money. But then later I realized that it was just taking a toll on my health.
As an employer, though, sometimes your hands are tied. You know, we bring up COVID. We didn't know. We all, you know, I thought, okay, let's go home for 2 weeks. When we come back, everything will be good and back to normal. And the construction industry didn't stop. It continued. We lost some employees because they were at that point where, you know, 62, 63, I have to do what? You're making me do what? I don't need this.
There are so many issues here that can be resolved with better preparation and making more of the people we've got. We look at labor shortages as uniquely a problem, and it is a problem. But it is also the pathway. It kind of gives you sightlines on what's the pathway to actually a better labor market, where more people have got more of what they want. A living wage, time off that they need to take care of themselves, their loved ones, and to learn to upgrade their skills.
But while you wait for that, you know, Rose and Trevor, you're in a position where you're triaging. What are some of the things, like really tangible micro things you're doing to hang on?
As owners, we're even taking shifts as dishwashers. Part of our service now is we actually don't even serve on regular dishware anywhere because we can't wash our dishes quick enough.
You can't clean it?
Offering to pay for interviews,
Pay somebody to come and do
offering
an
to pay for their transportation to be here and for their time. So if they're here, you know, for an hour, you know, we're offering to pay for them to come for their interview.
So there's another part of this conversation that sometimes gets whispered, and it's a little bit nasty, right? Which is where people say, you know, they'll talk about the labor shortage, and then someone will lean in and say, but the problem is people just don't want to work anymore, right? You've heard it, right? They don't want to work, they don't want to work hard. How crazy does that make you?
I had about 16 people in my team. 12 of us left.
Oof.
We still talk. And everybody's working. Nobody's jobless. Somebody might be looking for a less physically draining work. Somebody might be looking for something that has more salary.
Every single metric in statistics would say people can't work anymore right now. That's why we're having a problem. Unemployment rates are at half-century lows. Vacancy rates have never been this high in our history before since we started measuring them.
We as a workforce feel disrespected, and I think that my generation, and maybe I'm wrong, my generation is not willing to be considered for, you know, we're not willing to settle. We're not willing to be considered for less than what we bring to the table.
I know that for hospitality sector, we need to make our industry attractive again because no one wants to be in our industry. I grew up in a restaurant my dad opened with my grandfather as the chef. I love this industry deeply. It's what I live for, but I love it a lot less.
I agree. I feel the same.
The passion, I have days now where I get up and I want to tap out. I actually don't want to do it anymore. But I don't have the option, and I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
I also feel like there are people at home who see themselves in your experience, and some who are maybe surprised by the depth of the emotion that is connected to this, because it's a loss. Everybody is talking in terms of grief in one way or another. So I want to thank all of you for taking time with us.